Willis Towers Watson is a global risk consultant, which has multiple different parts to it. So there's a benefits delivery and administration part of the business which focuses on healthcare, specifically group healthcare, and then there is a part of the business that is focused on corporate risk and broking. So that's sort of retail broking for large businesses, and then there's the sort of part of the business that I work in, which is the reinsurance part of the business, where we essentially broke reinsurance for the market. So we have clients who are looking to cede certain risks into certain capital markets.
Can we talk about Aon?
I'd prefer not to, if that's okay.
Perfect, great, no worries. I had to try.
Yeah, fine, that's fine.
But let's talk about other mergers and acquisitions. It's been 2020 has been a very busy year.
I think what was slightly concerning last year was that there was an over-acceleration of the route to IPO, which was overheating or looking to overheat certain businesses that have fantastic foundations for a long-term offering to the industry that were being rushed to go public for the benefit of somebody else. And it was a slightly concerning time, I would argue. And so we get asked a lot whether or not, investment into InsurTech is going to continue, when's it going to burst? And the answer is it's really hard to know, because if the terminology or the definition of the terminology keeps getting wider and wider and wider, then everything that is anything in our industry is going to be captured as an InsurTech investment. And actually what's happening, as I say, is just that the industry is becoming synonymous with technology. Nashville life is good. We moved here in September from COVID. We had a very small apartment in Jersey City when I was working out of our Manhattan office, and that small apartment seemed to get smaller and smaller by the day.
Do you have a yard?
We have a very big yard. I won't embarrass people that don't have a yard by showing it to you, but yeah, you could keep animals on it. At that time, I sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I started working with a friend who had a startup, alpaca shearing. So I started shearing alpacas and llamas. We started in Germany and then ended up doing a lot of work in the States. So he asked me if I wanted to go and farm sea cucumbers with him in Indonesia, and I was at a stage of my life where I thought, why not? So moved to Indonesia. Lived there for 6 months, and then during that time I was contacted by the UN, who themselves were running a tribunal in Cambodia, and they said, look, we've just come across your Ph.D. There's a lot of data and information in this that pertains to a particular case file. Can we buy your Ph.D. from you? And I needed the money, so I said, absolutely, of course you can. Put a red ribbon on it. And so in January of 2017, I launched Willis InsurTech with the expressed understanding of trying to distill down what was quite a complicated space. And I'm sure you remember in the early 2017s, everybody was still trying to find their way. The term didn't really have a solid definition. But more than anything, Gilad, our clients were quite paranoid about being disrupted, and that was a regular question to us: was, how do I avoid being usurped? How do I avoid being disintermediated? And the only way to answer that question was really to speak to the InsurTechs and ask them if that was their agenda. And unsurprisingly, most of them did not think about disruption in a traditional sense, at least. They wanted to work with our clients. They wanted to enrich, enable, enhance what they were doing. Most of the firms that have gone public are risk originators. And you could argue that it's disruptive in nature to want to take market share. But the vast majority of InsurTechs who will do well in our industry will be providing solutions that can be licensed by multiple carriers at once. That actually provides long-term value. Individual risk originating businesses probably won't create macro value for the industry unless in part of their evolution they're designing technology that can be licensed by other people. The combination of events, negative events that COVID has created for the industry are unprecedented. I don't think ever before you've had a paid loss in conjunction with poorly performing markets happening at such global scale, where simultaneously certain risk classes are fundamentally transforming at the same time, in addition to the fact that operationally our businesses in the industry are being expected to perform in a different way. People are being expected to work from home. And if you look back to any other major events that the industry has dealt with from a paid loss perspective, there have always been other nets of safety that they can rely on. This just hasn't been the case. But this is the important part. Also, never before have we had access to technology and technologists to the extent that we have now who can actually help us get through this issue. And I think anybody that was doubting the value of technology 12 months ago probably isn't anymore. And that's a really great endorsement of the technology being brought into the industry.